Okay, guys, so my name is Brandon Taylor, Group 3, and I will be discussing the critical thinking discussion of our case Korematsu versus the United States. I'll start with a little recap, then I'll jump right in. So, during the late 1800s to early 1900s, Japanese were immigrating to California. The count went from 2,000 to over 100,000 over a 30-year time period. Started in Japan, made their way to Hawaii, and then the western states. December of 1941, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, urging Franklin D. Roosevelt, the president, to take action. This is where the key issue comes into our case. In 1942, the Executive Order 9066 was put into place by FDR, relocating roughly 140,000 Japanese Americans into detention camps. This would give the military authority to forcibly remove and incarcerate anyone of Japanese descent living within 60 miles of the California, Oregon, and Washington coast. This area was deemed as critical to national defense and potentially vulnerable, and Japanese were seen as spies, and there could be some espionage taking place. So the military transported them to 26 different detention sites in 7 western states. Now comes our main character, Fred Korematsu. He was a Japanese American who would not comply to the order. He had plastic surgery on his eyes, changed his name, claimed a different nationality, and the FBI arrested him for failure to reporting to a relocation center. He allowed the American Civil Liberties Union to represent him, to challenge the constitutionality of the orders. He was tried in federal court in San Francisco, convicted of violating military orders issued under the new Executive Order 9066, given 5 years on probation, and sent to an assembly center in San Bruno, California. He asked the Supreme Court of the United States to hear his case, and they said it was a military necessity, not what he claimed as racist or discrimination against his race. So this is where our argument really starts. Is it right what they did? Is it seen as racism? Is it seen as discrimination? Or should he have followed the law, because a law is a law put into place, this order here? Then a little bit more controversy starts 40 years later when the case is reopened on the basis of government misconduct. There was evidence of destroyed evidence that stated Japanese Americans pose no military threat to the U.S., so he took his case to federal court where they ruled against him. The order was proven to be valid yet again, so he was denied again. He claimed it was against his amendments and against his constitutional rights. So our issue with this case is that, well, the issue had to do with the military and if their exclusion order was justified. And the reason it goes along with the saying, you're better off safe than sorry. After the attacks on Pearl Harbor by Japan and the United States then entered World War II, a lot of attention would obviously shift on the Japanese that were living in the United States. Similar to 9/11, a lot of the attention shifted to the Muslims in the United States, especially in airports. And this unfortunately brought a lot of negative attention upon Japanese as they were accused as spies and that espionage was taking place, leading to the Executive Order 9066. Is it upsetting what happened? Having to leave friends, family, jobs, and homes behind to be treated, worthless, confined in jail cells? Absolutely. That's why we're having this argument here. But the job of the president is to protect the people of the United States. That's why the order was put into place to relocate the Japanese. So this is where it gets tricky, because you could argue that there was discrimination, racism, and that the order was unconstitutional. I mean, sure, it was focused on all people with Japanese ancestry, but after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the President and Supreme Court felt that the best way to prevent spying and espionage and, to stop any inside involvement with this war taking place with the Japanese was to remove the Japanese away from the coast. And the majority found that although the exclusion of citizens from their homes is generally an impermissible use of government authority, there was a quote from the case that in court there's an exception when there is grave imminent danger to the public safety, as long as there is definition and close relationship between the government's actions and the prevention against espionage and sabotage, the government is allowed to prevent danger, which really justifies what this order put into place by FDR did, just protecting the people. So the majority said in court that this was valid. Obviously, it was brought to the Supreme Court, it was brought to local court, it was tried many times, and it was always proven valid that what the government did was right. This issue can't be viewed in a sentimental way, that there was violation of rights, amendments, that there was discrimination. They were taken from family, friends, homes, jobs. It does make you feel bad when you think about it, but this isn't what Hitler did to the Jews, where he put them into camps and just punished them for no reason. There was reasoning behind this. Just the president protecting his people. The Japanese were welcomed to this country, and then they had to follow orders. Unfortunately, it didn't really end well. Having to leave all these things behind that mean a lot to anyone, really. But at the end of the day, it really was just the president protecting his people. Thank you guys, and I hope you enjoyed.